Hello, everybody. This is the NBA and NASCAR Power Half Hour. I am your host, James McDaniels, and we have got another great show on tap for you guys today. And you know what? I'm really excited. The NBA playoffs are taking off, and we've got a lot of great playoff stuff to talk to you about. We've got all the game ones. We've got the start of game twos tonight. We've got so that's in the NBA. In NASCAR, we've got the Kansas race that happened this week. Some history was made in a lot of different unusual places, so we'll go over that. And also back to the NBA, we'll talk about the latest in the Sacramento-Seattle Kings saga, and we kind of really know now what the time period's going to be for how things are going to be decided. So we'll talk all about that in this next half hour. By the way, if you all probably have been listening to my show every week, you know that the title says that it's a half an hour, and I've been getting longer and longer, unintentionally. So I'm going to try to bring it down to, just a few minutes over or 30 minutes. I won't try to go anywhere above probably 34 minutes. I'm going to try to do a little less here in order to stick with the names. So sorry if that didn't sell right with you, that I was going like 10 minutes over what I said that, what my title says that I do. So anyway, let's get to let's first go to the NASCAR race at Kansas, because we've got a lot of basketball stuff to talk about. So let's get NASCAR over with as quick as we can, because we got a lot of NBA stuff to talk about in the playoffs and stuff. So so Kansas, okay, so this is a course that was repaved not too long ago, and right now it seems to be Matt Kenseth's place. Matt Kenseth is doing really well at this Kansas Speedway now that it's been paved. And the reason I say this is not only because he won the race this weekend at Kansas, but in fact, he's won both of the races at Kansas now ever since Kansas has been repaved. So it seems like he's really starting to figure out Kansas really well. So the win for Matt Kenseth, all right, this is his 26th Cup win of his career. This now puts him as a two-time winner this year, which also ties Jimmy Johnson, I should say, and Kyle Busch as for the threesome, I guess you could say, for the two-time winners here in 2013. So that was kind of history in a way, because Matt Kenseth started from the pole. All right, and if you've been following the NASCAR the last few weeks, now this makes it the third consecutive week. All right, we're talking 3 consecutive weeks here where the driver that has started on the pole has also won the race. That has not been done since 1985, okay? That hasn't been done since Bill Elliott won at Michigan, then Dale Earnhardt won at Bristol, and then Bill Elliott won again at Darlington. All right, this is the first time 3 pole winners in a row have won the race 3 weeks in a row. All right, so that's pretty big history in itself. Now, another big thing that happened in history this week at Kansas involved Jeff Gordon. Now, Jeff Gordon, as we all know, one of the most winningest drivers of all time, top 10 in that category easily. Jeff Gordon, he's won 4 championships, but he's been having a lot of bad luck lately, and not to mention, what happened to him in qualifying at Kansas. It just continues. I mean, Jeff Gordon, I don't know if he's ever going to catch a break. I mean, he's a very good NASCAR driver. He just can't seem to get out of this bad luck spurt that he's been having the last couple of seasons. Anyway, Jeff Gordon, he started last in the race because he wrecked during qualifying. You usually never see Jeff Gordon wreck in qualifying because he's the only guy out there, but he spun around and they had to go to a backup. Okay, so Jeff Gordon starting last, that was history making, because Jeff Gordon, in all of his races that he's ever raced, I believe it's in the Sprint Cup Series, but it could be all of NASCAR. But anyway, what I do know is that this was his first ever start from 43rd place in his entire career. Now, again, I don't know whether that was in Sprint Cup or in NASCAR total, because he used to race in the Nationwide Series as well many years ago. But huge thing. The fact that he started last, you never see Jeff Gordon starting last. So that was a huge history thing, too. And Jeff Gordon would rebound nicely because he has won at Kansas before. So he kind of knew the track. He would end up finishing 13th and taking home a nice $131,971 to be exact. So that was, the history for the weekend. You had Kenseth joining Johnson and Kyle Busch as the 3 two-time winners of this year. It's the 26th win for Matt Kenseth in his career, and you have Jeff Gordon. He started all the way at the back. You almost never see that. Started 43rd, ended up 13th. So those were the big history things of the day. Now let's go back to Kenseth here, because Matt Kenseth. Okay, you don't usually see him win a lot of races. Okay, but he's been coming along lately with this new team. I mean, he did lead at Daytona a good amount before his car gave out. I mean, he's real. I honestly think that, other than the fact that he didn't have a good finish at Daytona because of the car issues, I really think Kenseth. I think Matt Kenseth is having a really good time with his crew, and I think it's a really good match. I've never seen Kenseth in terms do this well past this far into the season, because Kenseth technically usually is very, very good at the start of the year. All right, he's up in the points, he's doing really well, but he probably only wins one race a season. And like I said, I mean, Kenseth has been in the Cup Series for many years. He won the 2003 Sprint Cup Series trophy, but this was only his 26th win. So I think Matt Kenseth is really starting to come along with this team, because he's been doing really, really well this season, and it wasn't just like the first 4-week spurt. He's gone into kind of this mid-season. I think he's really, really going to be somebody to watch out for come the end of the year, because I think he's really found a good spot with this number 20 team. To be more exact on how Matt Kenseth did, he really dominated the race, all right? Like I said, he started on the pole, and he also led 163 of the 267 laps in the race. So you would think he would technically have dominated the race. However, it was where the caution came out. There was a caution that came out on lap 218 that put Kenseth back at the front of the race, because there, as cautions come out and pit stops happen and stuff like that, you can get really moved about if you enter in at the wrong time. So it just so happened to be that Matt Kenseth was able to get lucky, and when that last caution came out, it worked in the best of his abilities, because he wasn't up near the front come lap 200 or whatever the caution was, lap 218. He even called it in his interview when they were in victory lane. They were interviewing him. Matt Kenseth actually described the situation as being at the front of musical chairs. You can be at any position in musical chairs, but if you're not the one that's there at the front getting the seat, you're not going to win. And he said he basically was first when the music went off. So that's how he actually described it, to be honest. And you know what? I think that's a pretty good description. I don't think you could get it any better. In terms of what happened during the rest of the race, I actually didn't get to see the end part of the race, because I actually had to go to a sports day, and so anyway, I missed the second half of the race. But in the first half, I tell you, there was this one bad wreck. All right, it was between Kyle Busch and Joey Logano. So Kyle Busch, gets loose, he spins around, right? So you have Joey Logano, who sees Kyle Busch going up the track. So Joey's like, okay, well, I'm just going to go down low, because usually a car won't come down low after it hits the top like that, and he thought he could get past him. Not even close. Kyle Busch went right into Joey Logano off the wall, and I tell you, it was one wicked wreck. Because, I mean, if you just look at the video and photos of the wreck itself, Joey Logano actually, the front of his car went airborne, and both of the hoods to both of the cars absolutely blocked the entire front windshield. I mean, the front of both cars were absolutely totaled in the wreck. It was one of the most extreme wrecks I have seen this season. So if you want to see a good wreck, I don't think there's anything such as a good wreck, but if you want to see an exciting wreck, go and check out Kyle Busch and Joey Logano getting together at Kansas, because that, in my opinion, was probably one of the most wickedest wrecks we've seen so far this year. I mean, if you can get a car airborne and both hoods are blocking the windshield, then I think it's pretty extreme. And it was a pretty hard hit, but thank goodness for NASCAR. They have all those safety devices. Both drivers walked out okay. And, of course, Denny Hamlin, he's still out. They're still eyeing possibly Richmond for coming back. They're not 100% positive yet, but hopefully if things can go right and Denny Hamlin feels well enough, we will see Denny Hamlin back in the car at Richmond, but it's not a guarantee. He even said that. So we'll see how things go down, but for now, Denny Hamlin trying to eye Richmond as the next place, as the place to get back into his number 11 and start competing again. Of course, if you all remember, Denny Hamlin, he wrecked on the last lap of the California race, hit right into the inside wall, which did not have a safety barrier, and even with all the safety equipment, it knocked pretty much all the air right out of Denny Hamlin. So that pretty much sums up your Kansas race. And oh, by the way, let's go over the top 10. Casey Kane actually made a good run at Matt Kenseth near the end, but he just couldn't. He just didn't have enough time. If he would have had a few more laps, he might have caught up to Matt Kenseth, because I think the margin of victory. Let me see here. I think it says like 0.1551 seconds. Yeah, it says Casey Kane narrowed the lead to 0.151 seconds at the finish. So yeah, I was right there. So he did pretty well. I mean, he was right there with Matt Kenseth. He just didn't have enough time to bring it up. But still, very good, strong run for Casey Kane, finishing second after starting 27th. As for the rest of your top 10, we have Jimmy Johnson, Martin Truex Jr. Martin Truex has been very, very strong. He just cannot seem to get that win under his belt. But I tell you, I think he will get a win with the way he's driving his car lately. I think Martin Truex will get a win here sometime, hopefully this season, because it's been forever, and he really, really wants that win. He's been so close several times, and I think he will finally pull through at some point this season. All right, going down from fourth place to fifth place, we have Clint Bowyer, then Brad Keselowski, Jamie McMurray, Eric Almirola, Mark Martin, and finally Paul Menard rounding up the top 10 finishers at Kansas race. So that will do it for Kansas and the SCP 400. Of course, I'll keep you updated on anything that happens in the NASCAR world between now and next week. Oh, by the way, there was actually something cool I read about earlier today, and let me just get to it. So basically, there's this new qualifying format that they're going to have for the road races. And so road races, like Sonoma and Watkins Glen. All right, those are the two road courses on the NASCAR circuit. And so usually, because the road courses are really long and you have to brake a lot, make a lot of right turns, and all that stuff, you would usually only get, I think, one lap to qualify. I'm not 100% sure on that, but you would either get one lap or 2 laps to qualify. But at a race course at Sonoma or Watkins Glen, if you have a bad first lap, you may not have very good, second lap. I mean, 2 laps on this kind of course is not like an easy 200-mile-an-hour course. These are hard road courses. So basically, what NASCAR's going to do, they're going to have this format, all right, and it's going to be in a group-based format for qualifying. They're going to be given like a number. It's either a number of laps or amount of time that they're going to have to make laps, and then whatever their fastest lap is in that time will, set how they qualify basically. So let me go into specifics with this without me trying to explain it further. Let's go with what NASCAR actually had down as the new rule. So bullet point 1, cars attempting to qualify will be divided into groups. The number of groups and the amount of cars in each will depend on the numbers of the cars that practice for the event. Okay, so if you have 45 drivers that practice to try to make the 43 car field, it will be different if there's only 43 drivers. It's going to be different. Bullet point number 2, group assignments will be based on final practice times. Bullet point 3, each qualifying group will be on track for a set period of time determined by the series director. Bullet point 4, a car's best lap time, like I said, during the group session will be used as the qualifying lap time of record. And then finally, the final bullet point is a group's time begins when the first car receives the green flag at the start-finish line. So everybody in the NASCAR, or at least the leaders in the NASCAR world, are pretty excited about it, and I think it will really enhance the experience, for NASCAR fans at those road courses, because of course road courses, they can be kind of dull. While they have actions, they don't have a lot of passing lanes, and they're kind of slow at times. But this is a neat chance, and I think it will be a lot better for cars, because some laps you run a lot better than others at these type of road courses. So as for when we're going to see this, we're actually going to see this new qualifying format for the two road courses this year, starting with the Toyota Save Mart 350 at Sonoma on June 23rd, and then it will also be used at Watkins Glen this year for the Cheez-It 355 at Watkins Glen on August 11th. So we will get to see that new group qualifying thing, and see how it works out for NASCAR and the drivers. I like the idea, and we'll see what happens to it. All right, so I'm going on 16 minutes here. So let me quickly go over before I take a short break and move into full-blown NBA playoffs. I want to go to the Sacramento Kings and Seattle saga first, and get that over with before we talk about playoff basketball. So basically, the NBA Board of Governors met on Thursday and Friday, like they were usually scheduled for their annual Board of Governors meeting in New York. On Wednesday, they actually met Wednesday as well to discuss specifically about the Kings. So then after that 3 days of discussing and all that other stuff, there were no more presentations. There was just a lot of talk about it and briefings and all that other stuff that you would hear at meetings like that. I mean, of course they would talk about other things, but everybody says the main deal was easily the Kings and the Seattle thing going on, the big fight over the Kings. So basically, David Stern, Adam Silver, they came out, did a press conference as everybody expected them to do. And they say both deals are very complex. All right, very complex in different ways, trying to look through the red tape, how much profit each person's going to make, which one has a better arena deal. I mean, it's really, really hard for these owners, and they admit that they're very split. And by split, if they took a vote right now, the Kings would not be sold to the Hanson Group. If it's a split, it's like 15 or 16, 14, and under that, there'd be more than 8 people that, would say no and block the sale, and then in all likelihood, the Kings would stay in Sacramento. But the NBA doesn't want that. They want it to be a more uniform decision, so there's no arguments or suings or anything else of that type. So they wanted a more unanimous decision, like a 24-6, or a 26-4, or even a 28-2, or something like that, or even a 22-8. But the point is that they at least want some kind of uniformity and not anything more split than, say, 22-8. And of course that would go either way for either moving the Kings or keeping them there. Of course, what matters is the selling of the team. If the sale passes, then in all likelihood the relocation will pass, because relocation requires a simple majority, while selling a team requires 2/3 of a vote. So if the sale doesn't pass, then obviously the relocation probably won't happen, and then you have a situation where the Loose would kind of be forced to buy the Kings, but they can't be forced by the NBA to buy the Kings. It's up to the Loose to sell the Kings to Sacramento. The NBA can't force them to do that. But anyway, so like I said, they held a press conference and they talked all this up. So now here's where the schedule stands. So by the end of next week, all right, most of the owners, or all the owners, or anyway, the owners and all the big guys that are really in charge of doing this, the relocation committee, everything, they're going to have a conference call, all right, because they're not going to just go back to New York and discuss this again 1 week later. So they're going to have a conference call. They're going to talk about it more. And by the end of the week, and start next week, hopefully they said that they will very likely have a recommendation to give to the board. So they'll either say, we recommend that the Kings move, or we recommend the Kings stay. And then once that happens, then by NBA rules, you have to wait. The board has to wait 7 days in order to look over the recommendations and information and all that paperwork, and then finally they can finally hold all this vote and get all this figured out. So, figuratively speaking, if that were all to work out, then expect a vote probably first week, second week of May. I mean, probably first or second week of May is definitely the date that we're really looking at as Kings and Seattle fans, or should I say Sacramento and Seattle fans wanting to keep the Kings. That first week, second week of May is going to be really important because that will be the time when that vote's finally taken, and it definitely probably won't be taken based on rules and all that stuff until then, due to the time rules and stuff. So, and that's where the Kings stand. Both offers, I think, are very strong. If it makes any difference, the Moose actually did send a letter to the NBA stating that they really favored the Seattle deal. It's no surprise the Moose have favored the Seattle deal the whole time. They say that, they could get more money out of it and all this other stuff. There's a significant difference. All these different things. In fact, I'll read you what the Associated Press said about the Maloof family letter. All right, this is what they said. It said, quote, "The Maloof family is asking NBA owners to approve the sale of the Kings to a Seattle group, saying that there is," another quote, "significant distance between us and the Sacramento group," end quote. In a letter sent to the NBA Relocation Finance Committee and obtained by the Associated Press on Friday, the Maloof family said that the Sacramento group originally matched a $525 million valuation for the franchise negotiated by Chris Hansen, who was heading the Seattle group. Hansen then increased the valuation offered to $550 million last week, or in this case, it would be an upgrade of $25 million. The Maloofs and the so back to the Associated Press, what they said. Continuing the quote, the Maloofs said the Sacramento group has asked not to enter into a binding agreement until the Seattle deal is terminated. The Maloofs said that that would be a breach of contract and cost them the, quote, leverage to aggressively renegotiate terms in the event of the existing agreement is terminated, end quote. Maloof said under the terms of the Hansen deal, they were allowed to enter into a binding, quote unquote, backup offers until owners approved the agreement, according to the letter. The family said it would breach its contract with Hansen if it terminated the deal, but the Sacramento group continues to insist it to do so. Another quote, "Based on these factors, we and our advisors see no reason to continue any dialogue with the Sacramento group or to give any further consideration of negotiating backup offers based on its latest non-binding proposal," and quote, the letter said, and then that ends the entire quote from the Associated Press. But I'll tell you this, I'm gonna go over basic math here, and I honestly don't think that the Moose thing is very valid. All right. First off, NBA Commissioner David Stern, when the letter was asked about in terms of being, different, he said that the offer was in the ballpark. So the money, obviously, to David Stern and some of the owners is not it's not that big of a gap to $25 million. And when you're talking about $550 million, $25 million is kind of chunk change, in all honesty. The next thing you have to figure out is part of that $550 million now that the Hansen Group is offering, $100 million of that has to go to relocating the team because that's the NBA's fee for relocating a team. Also, you got to remember that the Moose also have $70-something million to pay back to the city of Sacramento. And so that's another $70 million that has to come out of the Hansen pocket to Sacramento. So in all honesty, the team is going to lose around $170 million of value in that million. The Kings offer at $525 million, it doesn't include the relocation fee. It also covers the $77 million that the Moose did. So the Moose will not have to pay that back if they went to the Kings deal. And therefore, I think the Sacramento deal is actually a lot better than the Hansen Group deal, in all honesty, if it's really in there in the ballpark and matching the offer. Of course, you have the fact that you have to do a new arena and stuff, but the arena is kind of separate from the matter. But the point is, in terms of buying the team as a whole, Sacramento, at least in my opinion, based on what I just said, I think the Sacramento offer is a lot stronger than Seattle. But of course, that's my opinion, and the Board of Governors will have the final say, and we will know probably in 2 weeks where the Kings will happen. Where the Kings will play the next few seasons. And if it doesn't happen by the first week in May, or maybe even the second week, David Stern did say that he was 100% positive, basically, that the vote and this whole thing will be settled by the time the NBA lottery comes up, which is later in May, which is late May, like May 21st or something like that. So at least we'll know by then where Sacramento will be playing next year. Of course, either way you look at it, I think the NBA will lose fans in some way. They will lose fans from Sacramento, and they'll lose fans in terms of, watchers that say, oh, well, this city did everything they could to keep the team and you still moved them. I mean, you can't do that when a team's already in the same city and they're doing everything they can and they've matched offers and all that. So fans would probably look down at the NBA and say, that's stupid. If they worked hard to keep their team and they couldn't do it, then the NBA was in the wrong. But then you're going to also have some people that are going to say, who would walk away from the billionaire that Hansen is and also the big market of Seattle compared to the little market of Sacramento? I mean, they've got a good point too. Seattle's a much bigger market, bigger city. Hansen's richer than all the others in the Sacramento bid, but again, the Sacramento bid is in the ballpark according to Stern, and therefore is not an issue, as according to what the Loose have said. So in all aspects, the NBA. So one way or the other, the NBA is gonna lose, some people, their trust in them, whether it's keeping the team or not moving a team to what would seem like a better location. I mean, they both have great fans. Sacramento has probably one of the best fan bases in all of the NBA. Seattle, I haven't been to a Seattle game, so I don't exactly know how much fan support there is up there. But yeah, either which way you look at it, I mean, it's going to be a good win for one city. It's going to be a terrible loss for the other. But if the Kings do stay, I will say this: Seattle does very much deserve a expansion team. But if Seattle gets the Kings, then I don't know if the Kings will ever get. If any NBA team will ever be back in Sacramento, and if the Kings, or not, no. In terms of the Kings, in terms of an NBA team staying in Sacramento, there probably will never be another one that comes to Sacramento because it's probably too small of a market. And the other fact is we'll probably never get a new arena, and the arena will fall apart, and just everything will fall apart if the Kings leave, and it'll be bad for the economy and everything. So all I want to see, Kings need to stay in Sacramento. Seattle needs to get an expansion team. I wish it were that easy to say and do, but it's not. So, yeah. All right, so I've been talking about the Kings for probably about 10 minutes, so I got to wrap things up here. Very quickly, I'll go over the games from the playoffs in terms of the teams that are playing tonight. First game, okay, so every NBA team that was in the playoffs who had home court advantage won their first game. So everybody's game one where the home team played won. So, like the Thunder won over Houston, Spurs won. Every single team that played at home in game one won their game. So let's go over the teams that played game one and that are playing game two as we speak, or in this case, between the Nets and Bulls, they've already played. First game, Nets absolutely routed the Bulls away, 106-89. Second game, however, Bulls stole one on the road from the Nets. They got it 90-82. In terms of the scores for this game, the Chicago Bulls, they had 5 players in double scoring. Very nice distribution of points. In terms of the Brooklyn Nets, they only had 3 people in double digits in terms of scoring. However, Lopez and Joe Johnson had a lot of points with 21 and 17 respectively. So the Bulls and Nets series is tied 1-1. Bulls now have the home court advantage after winning tonight's game. So let's go to the Grizzlies and the Clippers. Clippers also routed the Grizzlies in the first game of the series, 112-91. And yeah, it was just pretty dang ugly for Memphis in total. They only had 4 players in double-digit scoring, while the Clippers, they had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 players on the Clippers team scored in double figures, and one of those guys scored 23 points. That was That was more than any of the top scorers on the Memphis Grizzlies team. And the guy who scored that 23 points was actually Chris Paul. And, of course, Chris Paul is a very good passer and point guard, one of the best ones out there. He also gained 7 assists during that first game. Currently, as we speak, the Grizzlies and the Clippers are playing Game 2. I will get that update for you in a minute. Very quickly, I'll go over all the other Game 1s. New York beat Boston 85-78. Carmelo Anthony scored the most points of anybody. He scored 36. Let's see. Denver just edged out Golden State on a last-minute bucket. So Denver leads the series 1-0. Miller had the most points for the Nuggets with 28. Brooklyn, like I said, won their first game. Clippers won their first game. Then yesterday, just a bunch of blowouts yesterday. Indiana routed Atlanta 107-90. George had 23 points for Indiana in that game. San Antonio beat the Lakers 91-79. Ginobili and Parker tied for the most points in terms for the Spurs with 18. Howard scored the game-high 20 points for the Lakers. Miami, unlike what was heard earlier this week when Brandon Jennings had that one tweet of his where he said, "Oh, we're going to beat Miami in like 5 games or something." Well, based on this score, I don't even think that's even going to be close to happening. Miami absolutely destroyed Milwaukee, 110-87. LeBron James scored the most points for the Miami Heat with 27. Jennings followed close behind in scoring 26 points for Milwaukee. And finally, probably the biggest one of the night, Oklahoma City drenched the Houston Rockets with their scoring 120-91, a 29-point win for Oklahoma City. Durant led the game with 24 points, and Harden led the Rockets with 20 points. So that is all your Game 1s and some Game 2s. So we've got, like I said, let me look up really quickly what exactly is happening right now in the game between the Memphis Grizzlies and the LA Clippers. Right now, let's see. It looks like they just got started. So, oh, no, wait. No, they haven't got started. I didn't refresh the page. Sorry. Close game right now. Memphis trails the Clippers 40-37 here in the second quarter. Conley on the Grizzlies has already scored 13 points. And also on the Clippers, Blake Griffin and Jamal Crawford have both scored 13 points so far in this game. So that is your update for the Grizzlies and Clippers game. We'll have all the NBA information on the rest of the games on my next broadcast. But for now, I'm reaching the half an hour mark, so I have to go. So this has been the NBA and NASCAR Power Half Hour, you guys. I will see you all next week. We'll have NBA playoff stuff happening. We'll have NASCAR, the next race. We'll have all the details on that. And, of course, like always, if I can find any weird story in the NBA this week, I will, or NASCAR, of course, I will get it to you guys next week. So, yeah, guys, that will do it for this week's show. And until I see you guys next week, I hope you have a great rest of the week. Good night, everybody.